morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at Magikarp and Wailord Tag Team GX. And if you're thinking, well, hang on a second, Watty, have we not already looked at this card? Yes, we have. We have already looked at what the card is and what the card does. But ladies and gentlemen, today we are looking at the fact that it's already winning. That's right, there are tournaments in Japan now where these Tag Team GXs are legal for tournament play. And in these tournaments, Tag Team GXs are already crushing. Now I'm going to bring you a couple of deck lists over the next day or two, but I wanted to start off with Magikarp and Wailord. That is my personal favourite of the Tag Team GXs revealed so far, and it's pretty gosh darn good. Now, when I say winning, I mean coming second in a tournament with over 100 people. Now, the reason it came second is because it came second to Vikavolt Rayquaza, and I cannot tell you for absolutely certain, but I'm willing to bet it played stuff like Delmise, that with a choice band can get a one-hit KO for free prizes. And look, anytime you're playing against a deck that hits you for weakness, that's bad. When you're giving up free prizes, it's atrocious. Other than that, I really like this deck. And I'll be honest with you, it uses a couple of new cards and it uses them beautifully. This is a really nice deck list. So what do we have, ladies and gentlemen? Well, first of all, obviously we've got a couple of Magikarp and Wailord Tag Team GXs. Now, this is an attacking list. Sure, you can use this to try and block your opponent. Yeah, you can stop your opponent doing very much. But really, there are enough decks that can one-hit KO you like Rayquaza, and honestly, this is an attacker. 5 energy, 180 damage is nice. Even better if you've got 8 energy on there, and yes, that's a lot, and no, it won't happen all the time, but yes, it can work. What we see is 10 damage to the active, 100 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And I don't care who you are, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to hurt sooner rather than later. But we also see an Eevee and Snorlax Tag Team GX. Now, what this one does is it's got 270 HP, but crucially, it doesn't have the same weakness as Magikarp and Wailord. Now again, if you're not being hit by weakness by Delmise, but you're still against a Rayquaza, that's not going to do too much good. You still need 9 energy to KO them, but that is doable. But you've just got different options here. 240 for 4 energy against an evolved Pokemon is phenomenal. And that is really what you're doing here. 210 for 4 energy, draw till you've got 10 cards in hand is awesome. But make no mistake about it, the main attack here is the one that does 240 for 4 energy against an evolution Pokemon. We then see the combination of Quagsire and Naganadel, and if you've been watching my channel for a little while, this will not take much explaining. Naganadel accelerates an energy from the discard pile to itself, and then Quagsire moves that from your bench Naganadel to your active Pokemon, which could be one of these big boys like Wailord, or indeed like Snorlax. We see a Ditto Prism Star, because that can evolve into either of these stage 1s, and just gives you a whole bunch more consistency. We see a couple of Tapu Lele, because you do, after all, need to get set up, and it lets you search out supporter cards. We see a Volcanion Prism Star, which is lovely here. This is primarily for the ability. The attack 100 to the active, 20 to each of your opponent's bench for free energy is fine. But primarily here, we are looking at the ability. Discard a water energy from your hand. It's in the discard for Naganadel. Your opponent switches their active. It's really nice. And then we see a card we were not really expecting to see. It's Articuno. Now, I actually profiled Articuno today. Or if I didn't profile it today, it's going to be the next video coming along. Either way, it is from the same Tag Bolt set. And it is a very new card, and one that a lot of people are sleeping on. So what does it do? Well, the ability says that while it's in the active, you prevent all effects of supporter cards done to your benched water Pokemon. So this stops things like Guzma dragging it active. Now, don't get me wrong, it won't work against Naganadel, and it won't work against Tapu Lele, but it will work to protect your Quagsire and your Volcanion and your Magikarp and Wailord. And that's what I really like about this here. And what this does as an attack is 70 damage, and then you move 2 water energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. And if you're hitting for weakness here, or if you're hitting against pre-evolutions, this is awesome. You hit for 70, but then you don't lose any energy if you get KO'd. It is a great early game Pokemon, because you hit for 70 damage, your opponent doesn't KO you, and if they do KO you, you move the energy to the bench so it's ready to go on whichever Pokemon you bring up next. And your opponent cannot Guzma and KO something like your Wailord because the ability stops it. It's not that amazing later on in the game, but it's great in the early game. And we actually see Aqua Patch being played in this deck as a 4-of. This is really important to try and get the turn 1 attack with that Articuno, ready to then get Quagsire and start moving the energy around from turn 2. For Aqua Patch, pretty important. And in terms of the other trainer cards we see here, we see a couple others that were only actually released in Tag Bolt. We see Erica's Hospitality. I will put links to these new videos in the description. So things like Erica's Hospitality, check out the description to learn more. If you've got 6 or more cards in hand, you can't play this card. But as long as you've got 5 or fewer, draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Well, if they've got 5 Pokemon in play, you draw 5. If they've got 6 Pokemon in play, you draw 6. This is a really good draw card. Get used to seeing this in an awful lot of decks, because you will, because it's amazing. And we've got plenty of cards to discard cards from our hand, as we're going to see in a moment. But we also see Viridian Forest here. Now, this is another one of these brand new cards. And what it does is it allows you to discard a card from your hand and then search your deck for a basic energy. Well, discarding from your hand is really handy, because you need to get the energy in the discard for both Naganadel and for Aqua Patch. But also, this is an energy-hungry deck. Magikarp and Wailord Tag Team GX is energy-hungry. You need to have an energy every turn. Well, that's alright, this will help you out nicely. Now, there are obviously a bunch of other supporters and other trainer cards. Let's go through them nice and quickly. In terms of draw cards, we have Lily and Cynthia. They are the best 2 draw cards in the format. Other than Erica's Hospitality, get used to seeing a mixture of these 3 cards. We obviously see Guzma here to drag Pokemon active and KO them. Magikarp and Wailord does 180 for standard. So actually, you're not going to be always able to KO everything. Guzma becomes fairly important. We see 4 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Ball, 2 Mysterious Treasure. We need Pokemon Search here. We need to be able to get up and rolling. And both Mysterious Treasure and Ultra Ball will allow us to actually discard some cards from our hand, which of course, as previously mentioned, Naganadel and Aqua Patch. Weirdly here, no Brooklet Hill. Why no Brooklet Hill? Because we're playing Viridian Forest, and that's too important. In my video about Viridian Forest, I said to you all very clearly, if you want to play Viridian Forest, you've got to make a choice and decide that it's better than something like Brooklet Hill. Well, evidently, they decided it was better than Brooklet Hill. Obviously, we see 4 Aqua Patch, as we mentioned earlier. We see a Rescue Stretcher, which is good for recovering your Pokemon. And we see a couple of Max Potion, which are absolutely crucial in a deck like this. Quagsire lets you move energy off of your Pokemon. And you've got giant HP, so you're unlikely to be one-hit KO'd. So actually, this is beautiful just to heal off your giant free prize Pokemon. You're only playing 2 Max Potion, you're not playing any Ace Roller. Why, I hear you cry? Space. To be perfectly honest with you, space. And then we see a couple of choice band because doing extra damage to EXs and GXs is always good. It means that something like your Magikarp and Wailord can get a one-hit KO on a Zoroark GX, for argument's sake. It means that Articuno can get a one-hit KO on a Blacephalon. And I mean, look, just imagine that Articuno's there getting a one-hit KO on a Blacephalon as a non-GX, and then the energy moves to your bench anyway. So you're trading 2 prizes for 1 and you're not losing any energy. That seems pretty gosh darn good for me. As always, a huge thank you to the lovely Code64X over on Twitter for hooking me up with these deck lists. He does it a lot and I love him for it. These Tag Team GXs are great. They are here to stay. And when I see Magikarp and Wailord Tag Team GX going and doing well pretty much as soon as it's legal for tournament play, ladies and gentlemen, I get excited and make a video about it. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this deck. Do you think it's viable? Do you think it'll work in the long run? Do you think it's a bit of a fad? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And by far the most important thing, as always, other than checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.